What is up, Light Fam? It is David, your spiritual awakening coach, here to help you through your spiritual awakening. 3 signs you're becoming your greatest version. Ooh, it's a juicy one. Let's get into it. 3 signs you're becoming your greatest version. Number 1, you finally let go of what has let go of you. You are finally embracing the change that the universe is trying to give you. All right, guys. So this is huge. A lot of times when you feel stuck on your path, it's because you're not letting go of the old version of you or the things that no longer serve. There's a very famous quote that says, "The new life you want is going to cost you the old one." And this is why a lot of people have trouble getting through the dark night of the soul, for example. The dark night of the soul is when that old identity, more in alignment with fear and ego, begins to die off, and you're trying to find that new identity of higher consciousness. You're trying to ascend, but you can't ascend until you let go of what is weighing you down, which are the things that no longer serve. And once you let go of what no longer serves, you're lighter. You're allowed to ascend. You're allowed to step into that higher timeline that you're trying to get to, that your heart wants to get to. This usually means that you're leaving behind the things that are in alignment with fear from the ego, and you're following your heart, which is in alignment with expansion, endless possibilities, and imagination. Basically, the building blocks of the life that you really want. So when you let go of what no longer serves, you make room for what does serve. If you have a whole bunch of stuff in your energetic space that is no longer serve, it's hogging up all of the space for the things that do serve your growth, your expansion, that do encourage you and gives you love and happiness and freedom, these types of things. If there's no space for that to enter, then you've got to let go of what no longer serves to make space. And this is definitely one of the signs of becoming your greatest version, because someone who is living their greatest version is self-validating, self-approving, and sovereign. They don't need to hang on to a whole bunch of stuff just to soothe and validate unhealed trauma that they're not facing. A lot of people hang on to things because of the fear attached to that thing, which was birthed through unhealed trauma. But one of the things about becoming your greatest version is you fearlessly face and heal that trauma that you've been putting off for so long and leaving in the shadows, that gets you out of alignment with fear. And now you fearlessly move forward with authentic expression and going after the life that you live, and not being weighed down by the things that no longer serve, because you know you can let go of what no longer serves and you are still whole, happy, perfect, and complete. Number 2, you've stopped playing the blame game and started taking accountability for everything that shows up in your life. All right, guys, this one is huge. Accountability gives you absolute control over your life. A lot of people want to externalize everything that happens to them. Oh, it's that person's fault, or it's just the way that I am, or it's just the way that I was raised, or it's the enemy. Oh, it's just the enemy's fault. No. Anytime you're pointing the finger to what you believe is the problem, you're pointing the finger to what you just gave all of your power to. All of the change happens within. Once you start taking accountability for everything that shows up, whether or not your ego believes it was your fault or not, you get sovereignty. I'm promising you guys, I'm telling you, when you live a sovereign life, you are living happy and free, because you're not attached to anything. You're self-validating and self-approving. So something that you don't like that has shown up in your space, there has to be a vibrational match there somewhere. Opposing frequencies can't share the same space. There's a vibrational resonance within you that is allowing that thing that you don't want to share the same space with you. Are you worrying and fretting over something? Well, worrying and fretting is just rehearsing for what you don't want to happen. Does that make any sense? Why would you do that, right? So when you take accountability for everything that has shown up in your life, you take control over your life. Why? Because you have control over your frequency. You have control over your beliefs. You have control over what you're expecting to vibrationally match with. If your internal belief is, oh, this is a friendly universe, the universe is always conspiring in my favor, everything always works out for my highest good. This is a different frequency than woe is me. Why does this always happen? People suck. Whatever that limited negative belief system is, the universe just says, and so it is, and you're a vibrational match. So when you change your story and take accountability for everything that shows up in your life, you get to change your frequency. Changing your frequency means changing your story, which means changing your life to what you actually want to experience. Now, before we get on to the third sign that you are becoming your greatest version, if you like this type of empowering content, please click the subscribe button. I talk about all things relating to a spiritual awakening, empath empowerment, ascension symptoms, how to get through the dark night of the soul, better love relationships. Please click the subscribe if you like that type of content. And if you know anyone that likes that type of content, please share it with them. It lets the algorithm know that you like what we're doing over here at Lightways, and then we can empower more people from this channel. All right, on to the third reason that you are living your greatest version. And number three, you stop viewing your situation as being alone and started viewing it as being in the spiritual solitude for a minute so that you can reset, recharge, and spring back even stronger, pointed toward your happiness, freedom, and sovereignty. All right, guys, so this has to do with the spiritual void. You're not necessarily alone. The universe has just kind of put you in a spiritual timeout for a minute to bring you back to center and kind of reset. A lot of times we find ourselves in what's called wounded masculine energy, where we're overworking, over analyzing, over worrying, over controlling, over hustling. And there's no center, there's no groundedness, and we've kind of lost sight of the big picture, just getting distracted with busy work. So a lot of times the universe will put you in a spiritual timeout for a second where it seems like, the universe is no longer communicating with you. It seems like you've lost all of the insight and the synchronicities and signs from your spirit guides. Well, you've been left alone in the spiritual void for a minute. One, so that you're left to figure it out on your own. When you're left to figure it out on your own, you discover a different side of you. You discover that you're much more resilient, unbreakable, and self-sufficient and sovereign than you may have currently given yourself credit for if you're always waiting on the universe to give you some type of a sign or an indication to move or take action. You start to become sovereign, and then you're more of a co-creator instead of just codependent on the universe. And number two, the spiritual void is meant to maybe redirect your timeline. If your timeline is more in alignment with the ego coming from a place of survival, well, I have to do this to survive. It's I hate doing it, but it doesn't resonate with the joy of my heart. I hate doing it, but I have to do it to survive, or I have to do it because of this, or I have to do it because of that, whatever the story is. And a lot of times when the universe puts you in the spiritual void, you go into a self-discovery mode and you lose the fear about what the ego believes is needed to survive, and you find what resonates with your heart, what is true for you. And then you give your ego a little something to chew on and say, well, what if we went this route? And then the logical mind says, okay, well, if we did this and this and this, and it starts putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But you wouldn't have had that clarity of presence if your mind was off in the future in wounded masculine energy. So change your story from alone to just being in the spiritual void for a minute to reset and recharge, to find what resonates with your heart, to put you on the trajectory of the timeline that you really want to live. I hope this helps. I love you guys. Namaste.